Alhamdulillah wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So a brother was asking, well, is it best to study comparative fiqh from the get-go, or is it better to just do like a madhhab and stick to that and then later go on that route? And he said, and some of the people say they've heard that this is one way, this is a good way to do it, like when do you study comparative fiqh? Like, should you do it right away or later? First off, fiqh is a massive subject. And what I mean by massive is like it's going to take for a person to actually learn all the things that are going to be talked about in fiqh, whether or not you're learning what the ruling is regarding it, just to understand the actual issue at hand, apart from its ruling, that in and of itself will take years. And so for someone to learn this, they have to dedicate a lot of time to learn fiqh, and also a lot of the areas of fiqh will come back to each other, and they'll be reliant on each other to explain each other. So you need to understand what issues are like each other, even if they're in different places. So you have maybe an issue that's in salah is the same issue that's in hajj, and that's the same issue that's in a certain like a different act, or like a different thing that we deal with, such as in muamalat. And so like some of these things are very similar to each other, and you will never be able to understand the first part unless you understand the last part. And a lot of times, like if you study like a certain ilm, you'll understand that the different parts of the ilm, they will interpret each other, and they will give clarity to each other. So like the end of the book will explain the beginning of the book, and this is important, that someone has a holistic picture of fiqh. So going back to the question of like comparative fiqh, are we supposed to do it right up on the in the beginning or go later on? This is of the things that without a doubt I would say don't start off with comparative fiqh, like because of the amount of time that you have. And if you're a student of knowledge or you're just a layperson, nobody has time for this. And I accept very, very few people that are specialists in fiqh themselves. And this is after they become a specialist, then they can look at comparative fiqh and whatnot and go into details. And for a beginner student, what he should do, of course, the major thing that a beginner student he starts off with is learning all the things that correct his ibadah. All of the acts of worship that he needs to do, he needs to know how to do them correctly. And it's not important for him to to sift through all the differences of opinion at the beginning. All he needs to do is follow someone who is trustworthy in his deen, and he can follow them and go with it, because not everyone has time to go through and look at all the evidences, or even to study all of usul fiqh, and then to go through every single bit of the sunnah before they start even practicing their deen. You follow someone that you trust in their deen, and if you have questions, you ask. And this is simple. And so of course, like taking a small book and even going through the evidences at the beginning, occasionally going through the evidences in and of itself can lengthen the process for you to get a big picture first. And it's not to say that you should learn away from any type of evidence. You should just learn the issues, and then later you come and you learn about the hadith that are there. Like me personally, I like to have hadith on hand when I'm learning, especially at the beginning, so you know this is not just some baseless thing that I'm talking about, but there's a hadith that points to this. But occasionally when you have these hadith and whatnot, that some of the way that the hadith points to it is something that it would take someone advanced to understand how this is evidence. Like some people, they won't know how is this evidence, so even this in and of itself occasionally can slow people down from the basic goal of getting a big picture. And so this looking into comparative fiqh is not something that is recommended for someone at the beginning of their journey. And also, just as an example, like in the Kulliyat al-Sharia in Azhar, the first year we have almost all of the classes, the way it's broken down is we have a class that is for fiqh of whatever madhhab of your choice, and then that's broken down and we study a book that is Nassi, which is a classical textbook such as Kanz al-Raghibin for the Shafi'i madhhab. And then we also have another book on the side which is something that the doctor, the professors, they wrote up for themselves, and it doesn't go into all the details and whatnot, and then it gives like an overall view, and it's something that it's nice, but it's not like the same strength that you would have from in Kanz al-Raghibin, from that book. And then we also have comparative fiqh and as another subject. And then we also, like, at the first year, or like almost every year, we would have like ayat al-ahkam. So we had studied tafsir of the ayat al-ahkam, and we have other things that we study as well. And we also have the qadaya al-mu'asira, that we study like the modern day issues that come up in fiqh. And most all of these things like are comparative fiqh. So like comparative fiqh, just this in and of itself is comparative fiqh. We also have all these other things. And when we go through and study some of these issues, in the first year, like we would spend hours talking about a handful of issues. And like these handful of issues are, do we say the basmala? How much of the head do we wipe? Like when we're making wudu. And some of these issues, if we were to go into each separate issue and actually discuss it in detail, this will take hours. And like these hours that we spent talking about how much of the head are we supposed to wipe, and like how do we and how long do we have to wipe on our socks, or like can we even use socks, okay, and what are the different madhhab in regards to wiping on the khuf, and like, do we have to be traveling for us to do this? All of these different issues. If we were to go into all of the details of this and who said what, and knowing all of this, the person at the beginning of his learning, he won't understand anything at the end of it. And like there's a brother who was with me in the kulliyah as well. And he gets involved in these big discussions. But then when I ask him, he's a Shafi, and so I ask him basic questions in the Shafi madhhab, and he doesn't know. And if he had studied the madhhab by itself, and then gone over and then looked at the other madhhab after understanding a single madhhab on a single train of thought, then this would be much easier for him to understand the placements of the other madhhab. But I asked him a simple question about like Sawm or fasting and whatnot, and like the fidya, and he didn't know. And I was like, this is something that's in the matan of minhaj. Like if you had studied minhaj, or like at least to that point in the this is in the matan of Abi Shuja', to be honest. Like this is in the matan Abi Shuja', and he didn't even know the matan Abi Shuja', like the meaning of it. He didn't have this understanding, and he's already going into this big khilafat here and there. But if you were to ask him who said what where, at the end of the day, he holds a handful of masail that he kind of understands in great detail, but as a whole picture, he doesn't have any of it. And so this, and in some ways, it'll make someone seem very, very like, wow, this person knows a lot when he talks about one or two issues. But this is because he opened up the book and he started up in like Bab al-Tahara, and he can talk about this because he opened up Mughni, al-Mughni Ibn Qudama or something, and he goes into these books. And occasionally you'll see the brothers that start off in this, they don't finish any book in like the next 10 years of their life. If they start up with Mughni, okay, let's start off with Fiqh al-Khilaf. And so like they start up and they open up Mughni, they're not going to finish the first mujallad except for after a year and a half. And if they're going fast, maybe they finish a couple. And they haven't even encompassed the whole of what is fiqh. And they're already going into these great details. It's better to take it piece by piece, or take it broad strokes at the beginning, and then you can add in all these details as you go. But start with a madhhab, and get the atqin al-madhhab. So like have this madhhab that you understand it well, and then go from there, and you can add in all the other views. And a lot of the views inside of the madhhab, once you get to the later levels, you'll find that there's a lot of khilaf inside of the madhhab itself. But you understand the basic usul of the madhhab. So when the khilaf comes, you know how to put it back to the foundations of the madhhab. And then when you see the other madhahib, and when you look at them, it can make a lot of sense. But if you were to go into all these issues, nobody has time for this. Like you have things that you need to do, like to study. You need to study sarf. You need to study like nahu. You need to study balagha. All of these things. If you're going to get busy with studying all the details of the like fiqh muqaran, there's going to be a lot of things that is obligatory for you to know, or like that you should know. It's like ينبغي لطالب أن يعلم. And so like you should have these things that you learn, such as like the basics of all of the ulum, like a muqaddimah for every single ilm, and then like a certain foundational understanding of all the different ulum, and then you can look in the details of the ones of your choice, but this is going to take a long time for someone, and it will ultimately, the people that get into this, they are cut off from knowledge. Like they get cut off, and sometimes there's shuyukh that do this. They throw someone into something that will ultimately stop them from learning. There's a way of learning that will work, and when you take it piece by piece, you take a big picture, a small work that gives you the big picture, and then you add in all the layers of it later. And this is why a madhhab, studying by a madhhab, it gives you this. You have like this level, and this level, and this level, as I talked about in previous videos about, like, say, the Shafi'i madhhab. I talked about some of the books that someone can take along this. And of course, there's many different avenues, like you want to take this book instead of this book, and this book instead of this book. And the important thing is you take something small at the beginning that covers the majority of the issues, and then you take something a little bigger, and each time you're reviewing what came before and you're adding on something new, and you're reviewing what came before and you're adding on something new, and so you're establishing yourself and you're building yourself up on a foundation, as opposed to just going all in and just like reading Al-Umm. So if you're going to read Al-Umm by Imam Shafi'i, yes, there's going to be benefits you get here and there, but as a student, do you understand fiqh? Like, do you have a big picture of where fiqh is? And of course, like, even like when it was like in its original form, it's not broken up into chapters from like in the way that it's broken up now. It wasn't always broken up this way. Like the actual, some of the people that came later, they put it in a certain order that made sense for them. And a lot of times you'll have from like the earlier scholars, yes, they had a lot of knowledge and whatnot, but they didn't necessarily put it into a certain order where it's easy for you to receive it in a quick fashion. But over time, there's been a lot of evolution in the way that books have been written, the way that they are set up for a student to learn it the best possible way. And so, like, this is important that someone understands. Don't take all of this at one time, because you're going to lose it all. I mean, it's going to get very tiring. And like of some of the people, when they go into say like Kulliyat Sharia in Al-Azhar, this is something that if someone is not already established in a madhhab, they will probably not benefit as much, like they will not benefit as they should from the actual discussion of like the different opinions and whatnot. But if you've already established yourself, and then you go into and you look at these different opinions here and there, you'll really appreciate, you'll appreciate, and you'll understand also there's a reason that people differed. It's not just people are blindly following shuyukh and whatnot. No, there's basic principles that people are following, and all of the different madhabs, they have a basic evidence that they're holding on to, and it's not like one of them is upon the Quran and Sunnah, the other people threw it away. No, it's not of this way. But so this is the benefit, like of looking in the comparative fiqh. But you don't need to study all of comparative fiqh to understand this. You can take a couple issues and you can look at them, and you can realize there's a huge, like this debate goes on, and there's not there's not something that is just a solid, clear-cut answer that a lot of times that you can come to in these issues, such as like the basmala. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.